Chapter 31 Arai Shizuka. You are listening at novelfull.audio. While Aiya was having multiple thoughts, Theo was thinking about her proposition. Even though it is not my ideal situation, if they can learn fast and avoid repeating mistakes, this can work. Theo decided in his mind. Okay, but I want to meet them beforehand to assess their skill, he said seriously. Of course. I will talk with them and Monday they can come to meet you, she said excitedly that he accepted her suggestion. They finished their talks about the restaurant and the three of them went to the couch to watch an anime while eating pizza. The anime was great, and they loved it. Theo liked it as he didn't see this anime in his last world. It would be awesome if I could learn some directing and editing skills before I buy an anime studio company. Theo dreamed. When it was 10 p.m. Aiya said goodbye to them and went home. Aiya was in her sports car feeling happy as she recounted her night. She loved spending time with Theo and Aurora. She arrived at the gate of an enormous property. The security guard, seeing it was the young lady, hurriedly opened the gate. She parked her car in her underground parking lot. It could be seen several sports cars in the parking lot. And the craziest thing was that all the cars were hers alone, and the only cars in this city. Because she had several other cars in the other mansions of her family. She took the lift and went to her room. When she was entering her enormous bedroom, she noticed someone by the door and immediately assumed a fighting stance and defended the attack of the assailant. Her opponent was good and didn't stop attacking even if Aiya defended the first blow. The two people started exchanging blows at high velocity. It was noticeable that the two of them were masters of martial arts. When suddenly Aiya stopped and complained, I am tired, Shizu-chan. Aiya threw herself on the ground. Arai Shizuka was the maid/bodyguard of Aiya. But Aiya considered her more like a sister than her maid. Shizuka was the same age as Aiya. She was an orphan girl that was adopted into work as Aiya's maid when she was 4 years old. But the family grew attached to the little Shizuka and treated her like she was part of the family. Because of that, Shizuka didn't have the work that usually maids have. Her only job, as she insisted to have one, was to watch Aiya and take care of her. Aiya treated Shizuka as her older sister and they were really close to each other. But Aiya had one thing that she didn't like about her: Shizuka was too serious about her job of taking care of herself. As Shizuka herself said, I am going to repay this family for adopting me and I will take care of Aiya-chan even if you don't give me any job, she stubbornly said to the family when they suggested finding a new maid for Aiya and relieve her from her job. And Aiya, who loved to play and have fun outside the mansion without any supervision, had to constantly escape Shizuka's watch. I see you didn't forget how to fight, Aiya-chan, Shizuka said seriously while stopping fighting too. How could I forget if you keep attacking and surprising me so often? Aiya complained. I have to test you for your well-being, Aiya-chan, Shizuka said with her usual serious voice. Father and Grandpa are still overseas? Aiya asked. Yes, they will take at least 1 week before coming back, Shizuka replied. She will arrive in 2 weeks from her cruise with her friends, Shizuka replied again. They were silent for a while when Shizuka asked a question that made Aiya freeze. Aiya-chan, what were you doing in the south district of the city again today? Shizuka asked with a serious tone. Aiya didn't know how to reply. The south district was where Theo's apartment was located. How did you know? You saw the tracker of my car. You know that I don't like you doing that. Aiya stood up angrily. I didn't know and didn't check the tracker either, I am knowing now. I asked the driver where he picked you up last time and today, I presumed you went there again, and you simply admitted going there again, Shizuka said everything as if it was something obvious. Aiya looked baffled, she fell for Shizuka's trap and admitted she has been frequenting the same place. Aiya didn't know what to say. Maybe it is time to tell the truth. If I keep hiding she will be more upset, Aiya made a decision. I made a few new friends some weeks ago when I was at a restaurant. They were buying food to take for an orphanage, and I tagged along with them and visited the orphanage too. And I loved playing with the children. We were planning to visit again, so after everything was over, we exchanged contact numbers. And since then, we have been meeting in their apartment. Aiya explained how they met. Shizuka didn't say anything, as if knowing Aiya didn't say everything. Aiya didn't meet Shizuka's eyes as she found a way to tell the rest. And when I learned that one of them was opening a restaurant, I asked for a job as a cook in the kitchen of the restaurant. So, I will work as a cook in the restaurant, and we have been talking about the plans for the restaurant, Aiya weakly said. BL.net, so that's why you have been smiling at your phone constantly. And I assume this person you have been talking to is a boy, isn't it? Shizuka asked. Yes. Aiya mumbled. I want to meet him. And if I find something strange, I will have to talk with father, Shizuka said seriously. Please, Shizu-chan, don't tell him. Aiya pleaded. He will never allow me to work in a restaurant that I or the family do not own, Aiya whined. I will think about it. But I want to meet this boy and assess him. Shizuka said while looking at Aiya's eyes. Shizu-chan, please don't go overboard when you meet him. He doesn't know who my family is, and I don't want to scare him. Aiya pleaded with tears in her eyes. Shizuka lifted her eyebrow in surprise but agreed, nonetheless. They talked the rest of the night about the Gray siblings, as Aiya knew it was better to explain everything she knew so that Shizuka knew the context. Meanwhile, all that was happening, Theo was in his room sleeping like a baby. Chapter 32 Success. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The next day Theo called Sayuri to know how the sales went this week. Boss, it was a success, she exclaimed. In the first few days the sales were slow, but when the people that bought it first recommended to their friends, the sales exponentially grew. Yesterday the volume was sold out in various bookstores. We are currently shipping all the copies we produced this week. And the bookstores already ordered more copies. She explained. That's great. You did a great job, he complimented her. I want you to contact my accounting team to ask for money to buy more printers. I want as many printers as the Fuji Company building can afford to install inside the perimeters. Envisioning the increase of the cash flow of the company, Sam contracted a financial team to take care of the cash his two companies made. So, all the money that the Blue Cloud Coffee Shop and the Fuji Jump Company made was passed to the financial team to write it down. If money disappeared, they would immediately know of it. Even Theo had to call them if he was moving money from the company account to his personal bank account. Okay, it will be done, boss, Sayuri replied. They talked about other miscellaneous things about the company and hung up the phone. Then Theo texted Aiya. At Theo. Can you bring your friends to this location tomorrow? After a while Aiya replied. At Aiya. Sure. They will arrive in the city in the morning and in the afternoon they can go there. At Theo. Arrive. Aren't they from this city? At Aiya. They are, but they are studying in a cooking college in another city. At Theo. They are studying. Isn't that going to collide with working in another city? At Aiya. It is going to be okay. They are in their last year. And in their last year, they must go for an internship inside a professional kitchen so they can work normally in your restaurant. At Theo. That's a relief. At Theo. Didn't they find an internship in the city of their college? At Aiya. Unfortunately for them, no they didn't. Because that city has a cooking school, the competition for internships is savage each year with students in their last year needing an internship. At Aiya. Usually the students go to other cities to work. At Theo. I understand now. Aiya took some time to reply. At Aiya. Can I bring my sister tomorrow? She wants to meet you. At Theo. Sure, I would love to meet your sister. Aiya, who was holding her phone while sitting by the pool of the mansion, was relieved. At Aiya. Thank you. What would be his reaction if I sent a picture of me wearing a bathing suit? She dreamed as she looked at the bikini she was wearing. Aiya looked like a Victoria's Secret's model of Theo's past life. He certainly would be smitten by her looks if he saw her now. But Aiya dismissed her thoughts and continued texting Theo about other things. The next day, the weather was cloudy. The sun couldn't be seen, signaling that the summer was about to end, and the autumn was arriving. At the airport of Elfire City, 4 people could be seen exiting the gate. They appeared to be 22 or 23 years old. There were 3 girls and 1 boy. The boy was holding the hand of one of the girls as they appeared to be a couple. Finally, back home one of the girls exclaimed her name was Chiba Kimiko. She had green hair and green eyes, she looked like a pretty forest fairy. She was the oldest of the 4 and was the one that took care of them as a big sister. How about we visit our families before we audition for the job, another girl sweetly said. Dioviko, she was Takeda Shoko. She had blue hair and black eyes, she looked like a sweet girl. She was the youngest of the 4 and they cared for her as their little sister. I hope we can take this job, or we will have to delay our graduation, the boy said with worry. It doesn't matter worrying too much now. We should go home now. The girl that the boy was holding hands with replied. They were Max Smith and Lauren Brown. They were a couple since they were teenagers and knew each other since they were kids. Max was an above-average looking guy with black hair and black eyes. Lauren was a pretty girl with blonde hair and brown eyes. Lauren bossed around Max, and he happily accepted. She's too pretty while ordering me, he said one time when someone asked why he was so happy to do what Lauren asked. They went on their way as they all were worried about the internship. If they didn't take a job inside a professional kitchen this week, they would not be able to register for their internship with their school, and consequently, they would have to wait for next semester to register for the obligatory internship. The afternoon arrived and with it the test for Theo's restaurant. Theo arrived early bringing the ingredients for the test. While Theo was tidying up the ingredients on the counter, he heard someone entering the kitchen. He turned around and saw Aiya coming in accompanied by another girl. She was tall as Aiya, a great body too, black hair that was tied in a ponytail, and red piercing eyes clad in glasses that made her look intellectual and pretty. Good afternoon, Aiya. You must be Aiya's sister, right? My name is Theodore Gray, but you can call me Theo. It's a pleasure to meet you, Theo said, flashing a bright smile while extending his hand to greet her. Even with her serious personality, Shizuka was stunned when she saw the boy on her front. He dressed in simple pants and a black t-shirt with a manga cover. His silver-gray hair was tied in a ponytail with some hair falling on each side of his perfect face. His penetrating silver eyes showed confidence but humbleness at the same time. She hurriedly came back to herself and said. It's an equal pleasure. My name is Arai Shizuka. Aiya talked a lot about you. Shizuka seriously said while shaking his hand. Aiya's face immediately became red when she heard what Shizuka said. She looked at Theo and noticed that he didn't think much of it. She felt relieved but somehow disappointed at the same time. She must have told that she became a cook in the restaurant I am opening. I hope I didn't bring any inconvenience to your family by employing her, Arai-san, Theo politely replied. Shizuka was a little surprised at his antics. He looked like an educated young man from a big family with his looks and antics. But she knew he wasn't. According to what Aiya said, he only had his sister and he had to provide for both of them. You can call me Shizuka, Theo. And we didn't have any problems, you can rest relieved. Shizuka said. I am relieved, yes, Shizuka-san, Theo replied. Theo, the 4 of them texted me saying that they were arriving shortly. Aiya said to interrupt their conversation. Aiya asked Theo what he planned for the test, and they started talking. Chapter 33 Audition I. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As they were talking, they heard a knock on the door and later 4 people entered the kitchen. They looked nervous as they looked around the kitchen and noticed 3 people looking at them. Hello and welcome. My name is Theodore Gray, but you can call me Theo. I am the prime chef of the restaurant. This is Aiya, who I believe you already know. She is the second chef of the restaurant. And this Shizuka-san, she will only be observing the test. Theo greeted them while pointing at Aiya and Shizuka. Aiya waved happily at them, and they waved too but with stiff movements as they were nervous. Why don't you introduce yourselves to start the test? Theo said. They nodded and one of the girls said, Nice to meet you, Theo. My name is Chiba Kimiko and I am a graduate student at Garden Cooking College, and this is my resume. Kimiko said while giving a paper. After she said that, the rest of them introduced themselves and handed their resumes. These resumes specified which cooking techniques they knew and their proficiency in it according to their college standards. And specified the classes they took in college. Theo studied the resumes for a while. He was pleased with what he saw. Then he passed the resumes to Aiya, for her to look at and analyze it as his second chef. Your test will consist of 2 phases. The first one, each one will cook alone a dish of my choice. You all will cook the same dish and I will evaluate your techniques, posture as a cook, presentation, and taste of the dish. One will cook here while the other 3 will wait outside, if I and Aiya approve your work. You will pass to the next and last phase. The cooks who passed the first test will cook together a dish of my choice. I want to see how you work together to finalize a dish. Theo explained the test. Any doubts? He asked. Seeing that they didn't have any, he asked who would like to go first. They all raised their hands. Theo was pleased with their eagerness to cook. Kimiko-san, why don't you start then? Theo said while looking at the green-haired lady. Yes, I am okay with it, she said with seriousness as she knew she was about to cook, and she wanted to be perfect. Okay, Kimiko-san will start and the rest of you can go outside, please. Theo motioned them. After they left, Theo said to Kimiko. The dish is a cooked chicken with white wine. Colored rice and pumpkin chips to add a crunch. The ingredients are on the counter. You have 40 minutes to cook and present a dish that I could serve in my restaurant. Theo explained the dish. The dish had a medium-high difficulty but for someone who knew how to cook and studied, they would be able to complete it. Kimiko started by taking the chicken. Theo bought 4 whole chickens that needed to be cleaned and taken out the bones. He wanted to see how they would deal with the animal. If they would leave any dirty spot or leave a bone that should have been taken out or if they would waste any part of the chicken. She started a little bit nervous as she could feel 3 pairs of eyes observing her. But after a while, she forgot that they were there and she put her whole self into cooking a great dish. When the 40 minutes were up, she stopped cooking and took the dish for them to evaluate. Theo and Aiya observed the presentation. The dish looked okay. They didn't think it was the best presentation, but it wasn't bad either. They took a spoon and took a bite at the same time. They took another bite, and both fell into thought. They looked at each other and nodded. Thank you, Kimiko-san, for your dish. You can wait by the side and when all 4 of you finish cooking, we will comment on each of your dishes. Theo said with a smile. Kimiko was a little disappointed that she would have to wait but agreed, nonetheless. While this was happening, the 3 people outside were beyond nervous. Do you think Kimiko is doing well? Max asked nervously with worry. What a question. Of course, she is. Did you forget that you lost countless times when you battled her in college? Lauren barked with annoyance, but it could be seen from her eyes that she was worried and nervous too. I didn't think the prime chef would be so young. I hope he is good. Shoko said in a sweet voice. I think he is. Don't forget he somehow got Aia.san to be his second chef and she is a genius in the kitchen. And you guys know she is super rich, so it is presumable that she wouldn't work in a restaurant that wasn't good. Lauren said with a pensive face. While they were talking, they saw the door for the kitchen opening and Theo at the door. Who is next? He asked. Me. Shoko jumped and ran towards the door before Max and Lauren could react. Inside the kitchen, which Kimiko cleaned after using it, Theo explained the dish and the time of the test. Theo thought Shoko would have difficulties in cleaning the chicken as she had skinny arms and looked like a delicate girl. But surprisingly she finished with mastery. She is very experienced at this, Theo observed her. What he didn't know was that her family owned a butcher shop and since young she observed her father and brothers cleaning and boning all types of animals. Consequently, she had tons of experience. Shoko cooked with mastery and presented her dish. Theo and Aia looked at the plate admiring it. The presentation looked very classy and beautiful. They totally could imagine this dish being served in a classy restaurant. They tasted it and it wasn't as tasty as Kimiko, but it was delicious too. Thank you for your dish, Shoko.san, Aia said. You can wait by the side and when the other two finish cooking, we will comment on each of your dishes. Theo said with a smile. And like that a while later, Lauren and Max cooked and presented their dishes too. Theo and Aia went to the side to talk about their dishes and arrive at a decision. While they were talking, the four aspiring cooks were observing them by the side wanting to listen to what they were talking. The four of them were looking better. They put all their hearts in their dishes with all their skill and effort and now it was time to see if it worked out. Chapter 34 Edition 2 You are listening at novelfull.audio. Theo and Aia finished talking and walked towards them. Let's cut to the chase, right? I am sure you are all anxious to know the result. Theo smiled. The first dish was from Kimiko.san. We observed how you successfully cleaned and boned the chicken. You made some mistakes in controlling the fire to cook the chicken, but it didn't affect the taste, Theo said. Your presentation was lacking but if you study it will get better, Aia complimented. Yes, although it wasn't the best presentation of the four. Your dish was the tastiest of the four. I especially liked your technique of cooking the chicken. Theo said. With all that said, we decided to move you to the next phase of the test. Aia smiled. Kimiko heaved a sigh of relief and smiled too. The second dish was from Shoko.san. I was truly impressed at your technique of cleaning and boning the chicken. I would say you were the best of the four in this item. You made some mistake while cutting some vegetables and preparing the chips, but it didn't affect the taste of the dish. The said. Your presentation was the best of the four. We were truly impressed by it. We could imagine your dish being served in a restaurant. Aia also said. Although your dish wasn't as tasty as Kimiko's, but it was delicious nonetheless. Theo complimented. Observing all these points we will be glad to move you to the next phase. Aia finalized. Shoko smiled with happiness after she heard that. The third plate was from Lauren.san. Your techniques on cleaning and boning the chicken were perfect too. But you made a big mistake that affected your whole dish. Theo said. Lauren paled when she heard that as she knew what she did wrong. You cooked too much the chicken and it passed the point. But somehow the perfectness of your other steps made your dish taste delicious too. Your dish is only less tasty compared with Kimiko's and we believe if you didn't cook too much the chicken, your dish would be the best. Theo said with a smile. Your presentation was acceptable too, so observing all the points Theo said we decided to also move you to the next phase. Aia completed her evaluation. Lauren was so relieved. She thought she wouldn't pass when she saw she overcooked the chicken. The last dish was from Max-san. You cleaned and boned the chicken perfectly too. But you made some mistakes in some techniques. Theo said that did affect your dish. Your dish's taste was the worst of the four. But although it was the worst, it was an acceptable dish. Also, your presentation was beautiful, only losing for Shoko's. Aiya commented. We also decided to move you to the next phase, Theo smiled. Max exhaled a cold breath as he felt relieved, he passed. Now that you all passed to the next phase, I will explain what you all will do. Theo said with a serious voice. What I am looking for are not cooks who win duels and competitions. I want cooks who know what teamwork is. I want cooks who know how to behave inside a fast-paced kitchen of a restaurant. And to test that, I will put in place a more difficult test. The four of you will cook 5 servings of 2 different dishes. Observe that 5 servings to each dish. And you will only have 1.5 hours to finish the dishes. Theo explained. Their eyes went wide when they heard that. The time was too little for such a high quantity of dishes. Because they needed to clean the meat and do all other miscellaneous things while cooking the side dishes and other things. If the test was to cook 10 plates of the same dish, they would roll through it as they had tests in college where they had to cook a dish with a group, but 2 different dishes in such little time would be hard. The first dish is a braised cured salmon with sunflower seeds and radish and cucumber broth. The second dish is a wild mushroom risotto with truffles and crème fraîche. Theo described the dishes. The dishes were also medium high in quality. The first dish was just a salmon that would be braised with sunflower seeds. And for a side dish, they would have to make a broth of radish and cucumber. The second dish was vegetarian. And it was just a risotto of mushrooms with truffles. And for a side dish, the crème fraîche was a fresh cream that used buttermilk, sour milk, and yogurt. The 2 dishes demanded skill to complete and they had to have more than 1 plate, just like a restaurant situation. Theo gave them some time to talk and delegate roles in the kitchen. After a while, they stopped talking and said to Theo that they were ready. Your time starts now. Theo said as he started the clock. They immediately started doing what they agreed with each other. Shoko would clean the salmons, that Theo gave to them alive and kicking inside the tank of the kitchen. Lauren would cut all the vegetables for the broth and make the broth too. Kimiko would make the preparation for the risotto. And lastly, Max would start the fresh cream and later he would cook the fish. For 1.5 hours, Theo and Aiya observed how they ran against the time inside the kitchen. They made big mistakes and had to start over some processes. And because of that, when it only had 5 minutes left until the time ran out, they still didn't have the dishes on the plates. Theo and Aiya didn't say anything and only observed. Shoko and Max were plating and running against the time as they were responsible for the plating of the dishes. When Theo said to them to stop, it was then that Shoko put the last decoration of a plate. They heaved a sigh of relief as they at least completed the dishes Theo asked for. Theo and Aiya started analyzing the plates and tasted all 10 plates. 5 of each dish. They went to the side to talk and this time they took much more time talking. The 2 of them seemed to be arguing on a subject with emphasis as it could be seen that the 2 of them did not agree on the subject. The 4 aspiring cooks were with nerves on edge as they waited for the result. Suddenly Theo and Aiya seemed to reach a consensus on the discussion and came back to the front. Chapter 35 Results and Hiring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. First of all, I would like to thank you all for coming to audition for my restaurant. I am grateful for that. Theo smiled. Now moving on with the result, we observed several things during the time you were cooking. It was noticeable that you 4 were familiar with working together as you delegated each function to your specialties. Theo said. But it was evident that you weren't prepared to cook 2 completely different dishes. You guys made some basic mistakes that cannot happen inside a professional kitchen. Aiya said with a serious look. Yes, you guys mistook ingredients of one dish with the other. And because of that, you guys had to start all over again with a time that it was even tighter. Theo said. If you don't pay attention to the ingredient you are using, who will pay attention? Aiya asked. And the fault is of the four of you. Not just the two mistook the ingredients. Because the other two should be attentive to their surroundings and help their fellow teammates. Because a kitchen is where we heavily depend on teamwork. Theo explained. But even though you made a big mistake, you all somehow were able to deliver an acceptable dish. It wasn't the best, but it was a good dish. Aiya said. I am sure if you guys started cooking with the same energy, determination, and focus you had after you made that mistake, the dish would an excellent dish. Theo said with a smile. And because we saw your potential, we decided to hire you as a cook in probation. Over the course of the week, you four will cook together with me and Theo. And if we see that you evolved in your teamwork and didn't make mistakes and cooked great dishes, we will hire you as permanent cooks, Aiya explained to them with a smile. The four of them instantly jumped and hugged each other. They were dreading when Theo and Aiya criticized their work process, but in the end, they only felt relief and happiness. They were determined to pay attention to the cooking process and have more teamwork during the week so that they could be officially hired. Theo was also happy. Although the four of them needed training, they would be able to do a great job for him. They couldn't cook dishes at his level yet. If hypothetically Theo could cook dishes with an 8.5 grade, the four of them would cook only at 6.0. But they would be helpful for him and Aiya, who could cook dishes with a grade of 7.5. The four of them went home when Theo told them about the time for them to come tomorrow. They were exhausted after cooking at such high pressure. They are good. I think they will be a great addition to our kitchen. Thank you for recommending them. Theo said as the three of them walked towards the parking lot. I am part of the kitchen too and I want the restaurant to succeed. Aiya smiled. Well, I have to go. Bye Aiya, Shizuka.san. Theo waved at them and entered his car. Shizuka looked at his car and felt it was a familiar car. Aiya.chan wouldn't receive an identical car for her trip to the mountains. What are the odds for the same car to appear? Shizuka mumbled in her mind. Shizu.chan get inside the car, Aiya screamed from the inside of her sports car. Shizuka got inside the car as she recounted the look of that car. That day while Theo was having the taste of being like a MasterChef judge. That day also marked the Naruto manga's first volume being refilled on the shelves of bookstores all around Elfire City and a chain bookstore that spanned all around the country. Courtney Sand was a high school student that loved reading mangas. For her, it didn't matter what genre the manga was. When she heard her friends talking about a manga that was sold out only a week after being released, she knew she had to buy it. So, Monday morning she woke earlier to go to the bookstore before her classes started. When she arrived at the bookstore, she noticed that it wasn't open yet. She also saw around 10 people waiting for the store to open. When the store opened, Courtney went directly to the recommendation section and saw the manga she was looking for. She grabbed it and went to the cashier. But when she looked around, she was surprised to find that all the 10 people who also got there early also got a Naruto manga to buy it too. It is more famous than I thought. She said in her mind she paid for the manga and went to school. When the lunch break arrived, Courtney took the manga she bought in the morning to read while she ate a sandwich. The more she read, the more she was absorbed by the story. And when the signal of the end of the break sounded, she reluctantly put away the manga. She couldn't wait to go home to continue reading. Scenes of people buying the Naruto manga and instantly loving it kept happening. And as they finished the manga, they wanted to read the next volume at that moment. The Naruto fever was beginning to take shape in the Sakura abode country. Theo had the same routine he had with Aurora that Monday night too. He cooked for her and trained her in self-defense. The next day, Theo and Aiya started cooking with Kimiko, Shoko, Lauren, and Max L.C. and the four of them saw the amazing cooks Theo and Aiya were. The two of them looked like they were dancing in the kitchen as their every movement had a purpose. And when they tasted the dishes the two of them made, they were shocked. It was comparable to dishes they tasted in star restaurants. The four of them became even more determined to get this job. For the next 4 days, Theo simulated various situations a professional kitchen could face during service hours. On the first 2 days, they had a few problems in the service. The 6 of them had difficulties while trying to cook in some situations. Especially the 4 new cooks. They had to adapt to the high pace and high quality Theo and Aia demanded. But on the third and especially on the fourth and last day, they became accomplished cooks that would be able to help the chefs to cook their dishes. They learned much more in these 4 days than they imagined. Now they understood why the college made this internship obligatory. They would learn much more in this year of internship than they would learn if they continued the last year studying at the college. Theo was happy as he looked at them when the mock service of Friday ended. I am very happy with you guys' work. You became a full-fledged professional cook. And I am happy to invite you to cook in my restaurant if you guys still want, Theo said smiling. Yes, we want, chef, the 4 of them shouted. Over the course of the week, they saw the amazing chef Theo was and they respected him with their heart. Theo passed them 4 identical contracts. They read it all and signed it without hesitation. Theo passed them their copies and said goodbye for the day. Chapter 36 Construction completed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. So, when the restaurant will be ready? Aia asked as they walked to their cars. All the facilities with decorations will be ready on Monday and I have to supply the restaurant with wines and other high-end ingredients, and I also have to advertise the opening. I presume that next Saturday, in 8 days, we will be fully operational for service. Theo said thoughtfully. If you want, I can take care of the advertisement. I know some advertising companies that will be of great help. Aia said as she thought of asking Shizuka for her help to take care of this. Sure, I will send you the logo of the restaurant and what I want for the advertisements, Theo said, not really worrying too much as the system said he only had to do the design of the ads and it didn't matter who took care of the campaign. I will do my best. Aia jumped around in excitement. I know you will do, Theo laughed. Theo said goodbye to her and drove his car towards the restaurant. Today was the last day of construction and the engineer called saying that everything was ready. Theo arrived at the front of the building, and he was pleased with the work it was done. It was exactly like what he projected, and it looked beautiful. The new building was 3 stories high. It was painted with black and white colors with arched windows on the last 2 floors. The building looked modern but classy at the same time. He entered the building and loved what they did with the place. The interior felt like a classy place but a cozy place too. After I put the decorations, it will become even cozier. The perfect place to have a lovely and romantic dinner but at the same time a classy place to have a luxurious dinner. He thought. Theo looked around all sides of the building, memorizing all the details as he needed that for what he was planning to do with the decorations. After Theo looked around the building for more than 2 hours, he went home. I will finalize the design of the decorations tomorrow and tomorrow night I will come and retrieve all the decorations from the system, he thought. Theo was grateful towards the system for this reward. Because he knew if he bought the decorations he was designing, he would have to spend at least $10 million or more. And he didn't have that kind of money. At least not yet. And even the construction time would be more as the decorations he designed would take more than 2 months to be completed if he ordered from some decoration company. He was able to build a beautiful restaurant in record time. Theo went a little overboard with designs as he knew he wasn't going to pay for anything. Theo's first draft of designs would only be worth $500K. The next day, Theo spent the entire of it finishing the designs of the decorations. When it was 7 p.m. Theo arrived in his restaurant. It was time to retrieve the decorations for the restaurant. System, retrieve the decorations according to my designs, Theo said inwardly, scanning host's designs, 1%, 19%, 66%, 94%, ding. Scan successful. The decorations will be ready in 5 minutes. Theo waited anxiously outside the restaurant for 5 minutes when he heard a sound in his mind. Decorations delivered. Theo ran inside and his breath was immediately taken away. It was exactly like imagined. As he walked over to the restaurant, he became even more impressed with the work of the system. As one first arrived outside the restaurant, they would see a beautiful black and white building with arched windows. On the front side ground floor of the restaurant, the client would see big glass windows and a garden in the front of it. The inside was visible through some glimpses, but it was not possible to see the clients inside. The front side lighting used cold colors to bring a modern feeling, but through the windows, it was possible to see warm lighting, making someone who walked past the restaurant think it was a cozy place. As the client walked inside, they would see the greeter counter and a waiting room by the side. The waiting room used comfortable brown couches with paintings hanging on the walls. As someone passed this greeter counter, they would enter the restaurant. And it was a breathtaking view. The salon was not too big, but it didn't give an imponent feeling but a cozy feeling instead. The walls were painted with beige color with golden details. And occasionally, frescoes of forests and fruits and vegetables could be seen on the walls. The floor had a warm color to give a warm feeling to clients on the saloon. But if someone walked around the salon, occasionally it could be seen classy mosaics appearing on the ground. The mosaics added a touch of classiness. The tables were round and were made with beautiful aromatic wood. The tablecloths were white with silver and golden colors on the edges. The chairs were brown red upholstered armchairs that would give a comfortable feeling for the clients. And if one looked at the ceiling, they would have a breathtaking view. Roses, lilies, tulips, and other flowers could be seen hanging above the tables. It was a beautiful scene. Theo made something even crazier as he ordered a machine from the system that didn't exist in this world. Theo put on the ceiling above the flowers a panel that showed the stars and the moon. But this was not a simple panel. This panel was made completely from concrete and consequently gave a much more realistic feeling. So, if someone seating at the table of the salon looked upwards, they would feel like they were in the middle of nowhere with nothing but flowers and the firmament of stars on top of her head. Not that they were in the middle of a city having a meal inside of a restaurant. And the craziest thing was that this panel was the primary light source of the salon. It really felt like the clients were eating while the stars illuminated their meal. Theo didn't know if the system would be able to deliver his design, but when he saw the ceiling, he looked at it, for a good 5 minutes, admiring it. Chapter 37, Inspecting the Decorations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. When one passed the salon, one would see a big opening that went from the ground floor until the 3rd floor, where it was possible to see the sky outside through a skylight. And on this opening, a stone staircase was located, giving access to the upper floors. The staircase gave a classy feeling with its stone edges sculpted. And if one looked to the upper floors through the opening, they would realize the people on the ground floor couldn't see what was happening on the upper floors. And to the side of the opening, it was possible to see a glass-covered elevator, adding a modern feeling to the restaurant. And illuminating the whole opening, a chandelier was hung in the middle of it. The chandelier gave a cozy and warm feeling to the ones who passed by it. After the opening, the door to the kitchen could be seen. The kitchen wasn't ready yet as kitchen electronic appliances weren't applied to the system's reward. But the kitchen was enormous, and after passing by the kitchen, a lounge area for the staff and the storage room could be seen. There was a service elevator by the kitchen too. The purpose of it was to facilitate the service of the upper floors. When someone arrived at the 1st floor of the restaurant through the staircase, they would see several doors. Each door led toward a private room that was like a mini salon downstairs. But it was more luxurious with more expensive appliances and decoration, but with the same style. On the 2nd floor of the building, it had only 2 rooms. And it was Theo's favorite part of the building. On the first room of the floor, the ground was clad on a red-brownish carpet, giving the feeling of joy as one stepped on it. In the middle of the room a table was located. It wasn't the most expensive of the restaurant, but it was the table that gave the coziest feeling. The walls were clad with flowers as the ceiling of the room didn't have any flowers. But the ceiling didn't have any flowers because Theo went a little crazy with the design of this ceiling. He asked for a retractable ceiling that had the same effect as the panel concrete ceiling of the ground floor. And to his surprise, the system delivered. This was the best room in the restaurant. But Theo didn't plan to open for the public. This room was only for him and Aurora and his friends too. Passing this dining room, one would enter a lounge area that had all sorts of appliances. A comfortable couch turned towards a giant TV, a workstation that had the latest computer on the market, a fridge, and some other kitchen appliances to make snacks, and on the corner of the room, a tatami for fighting could be seen. Theo made this room thinking about Aurora. He didn't the thought of her alone in the apartment when he was working late on the restaurant. So, he thought it would be best to have a room here where she could study and pass the time as comfortably as possible. After Theo verified the whole restaurant, he was jumping around in excitement. It is more beautiful than I imagined it would be. He dreamed as he admired the restaurant. I should ask Sam for her help to hire the rest of the staff. Theo thought inwardly as he closed the restaurant. He already contacted a company to install the kitchen appliances and they start by Monday. As Theo arrived home late at night, he saw Aurora watching TV. "Hey, Cupcake, awake yet?" Theo smiled. "Yeah, I wanted to wait for you to arrive, big brother," she said with her sweet voice. "Thank you, Cupcake," Theo said as patted her head. Aurora moaned as she felt her brother pat her. "Did you eat the dinner I left you?" Theo asked. "Yeah, it was delicious," she exclaimed. "I am glad you liked it," Theo smiled at her. "Where were you, brother?" she asked after he stopped patting her head. "The restaurant with the decorations got ready today and I was inspecting to see if everything was okay," Theo explained. "Really? Can I go there to see it too, brother?" she pleaded with big puppy eyes. "Anything for you, Cupcake," he said tenderly. "Yay!" Aurora exclaimed as she hugged Theo. "How about we go to the mall and buy some clothes and other stuff and afterwards I will take you to see the restaurant," he said after they ended the hug. "That would be great." Aurora agreed without hesitation. On the next day, Theo and Aurora could be seen driving towards a mall. Theo decided to go to a mall that had more expensive clothes. He wanted to pamper Aurora. He bought her a bunch of clothes. Dresses, skirts, shirts, shoes, and various other things. She said she didn't need too much stuff, but he kept insisting until she agreed to buy more clothes. Theo bought some clothes too. But he bought expensive clothes, but if you didn't pay attention to the clothing brand, they would think it was normal clothes. But if someone knew the brands, they would realize it was from expensive brands. Theo also bought the latest generation phones and laptops for him and Aurora. And surprisingly it was from the company that had the Apple as the brand image. Theo noticed that the tech companies from his old world existed in this world too. For example, he saw Apple, Mercedes, Intel, Ferrari, Louis Vuitton, Prada, and many others. He thought it was weird for them to exist in this world, but he accepted, nonetheless. All the clothes he bought were from luxurious brands like Prada and Louis Vuitton, and that's why when he exited the mall, his wallet was shorter with $200,000. But he didn't regret expending so much. "I am making money to make Aurora's life better and to make my dreams come true," he thought. "Money, I can always make more," he inwardly nodded. Aurora was super happy as they exited the mall. Theo also bought all the makeup she wanted. Aurora always liked colorful makeup and Theo also felt happy that she liked something. Aurora didn't need makeup as she was a natural super beauty, but she enjoyed applying some unusual makeup. like putting stars around her eyes and other unusual makeups. Did you like our outing? Theo smiled as they entered the car. Yes, we bought a bunch of stuff, she exclaimed sweetly. I am glad. Now let's go to the restaurant. Theo said smiling. Chapter 38 The Spark. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As they arrived close to the restaurant, Theo parked a little far from the restaurant. Can you wait a little by the car? I want you to see the restaurant with all the lights on, Theo asked while looking at her. Aurora was confused by the strange request but agreed, nonetheless. Theo asked that because the restaurant became a magical place when the lights were on, and he wanted Aurora's first impression of the restaurant to be magical too. Theo spent around 10 minutes arranging everything and called Aurora when everything was ready. Aurora became speechless for the first minutes of the restaurant tour, especially when she saw the ceiling of the ground floor salon. It is so beautiful. She dreamed. But after a while she became a jumpy rabbit, jumping all around the place in excitement as she asked Theo countless questions. She loved her brother's magical restaurant. When they arrived on the first floor, Aurora became quieter and stopped asking questions. Theo noticed something was wrong and asked, Cupcake, are you okay? Is there something bothering you? Theo grabbed her hand. Aurora tried to avoid him, but she was unsuccessful. Please, Cupcake, tell me. You know that you can tell me anything you want, right? Theo asked with a pleading voice. Aurora, hearing her brother's hurting voice tone from her antics, became guilty and stopped trying to escape his grab. I know I shouldn't be sad, but knowing you won't be every day in the apartment with me as we have dinner and train self-defense makes my heart hurt. Aurora sobbed in a low voice. Oh Cupcake, do you think I would be able to leave you all alone at night, he said as he held her head and wiped her tears. Let me show you my favorite part of this restaurant. Theo pulled her towards the second floor of the building. They arrived at the top and Aurora saw the dining room and she loved it. This dining room isn't part of the restaurant. This room is exclusive for me to have meals with you. If you want, you can bring your friends here too. Theo pulled her into the lounge room. And this room here is your room, Cupcake. I don't want you to arrive at an empty apartment. So, I made this room where you can come after school. You can study here, watch television, make some snacks, and I even placed a tatami here where we can continue our training. Theo explained the room. You can come here after school, and I will have dinner with you like every day. Theo continued talking about the room. Aurora was speechless as she looked at the room her brother made only for her in his beautiful restaurant. She was overwhelmed by his love. She only had one thought as she ran in his direction and kissed his lips. I love you so much, brother. She dreamed inwardly. Theo was speechless by her kiss, but it only lasted a little bit. As Aurora released his lips and hugged him tightly. Thank you, big brother. She said in a low voice that if Theo wasn't with his ear close to her mouth, he wouldn't be able to hear. Theo decided to ignore the kiss. He loved her, but she was too young. He wanted to wait for her to grow up and confess his feelings. Theo knew he loved Aurora more than the love siblings should have. And he also knew that Aurora liked him too. So, he never doubted he would one day confess to her. Afterwards, Theo closed the restaurant and went home, where he made dinner and had a lovely meal with his sister. On the next day, he called Aiya and the 4 cooks to see the restaurant. When Aiya saw the restaurant, she jumped all around and asked countless questions too. Theo, this is a world-class beauty restaurant, she exclaimed in admiration. Aiya, who usually frequented top restaurants all around the world, was truly impressed by the decorations and some features of the restaurant, especially the ceiling. She had never seen something like it before. Thank you, Theo laughed. It is so beautiful. Shoko said in her sweet voice, I can't believe we will work on such a classy restaurant. Max added. Me neither, Lauren complimented her boyfriend. I will do my best to meet the expectations, Kimiko said with determined eyes. Come on, let me show you the kitchen, Theo laughed. They entered a large room where they saw workers installing kitchen appliances. The kitchen will be ready to be used in 2 days. And by then you guys will come so that we can start getting used to the menu of the restaurant, Theo said. Yes, chef, they shouted. Theo said goodbye to the 4 cooks as he took Aiya to the second floor of the building. This floor is not a part of the restaurant. It is exclusive to my family and friends. So, if you feel tired you can come here and relax. Aurora will be mostly here after getting out of the school so you can talk with her here too, Theo pointed at the lounge room. Aiya was beaming with happiness when she heard that. She felt she was getting close to Theo's heart. Thank you, Theo, she said with a bright smile. They talked about the restaurant while seating on the couch of the lounge room when Aiya asked. So, when are you gonna tell me the name of the restaurant? She lifted her brow. To be honest, until Saturday night I didn't know how to name it. But suddenly I came up with a name that I very much liked. Do you want to come with me to hang the sign at the front side of the building? Theo said with a mysterious smile. Let's go. Aiya shouted while running outside. Theo laughed and followed her. They hung up the sign and looked at it. It is a very fitting name indeed, Aiya commented. I know, Theo said while deep in thoughts. On the front of them a sign was visible and who passed would be able to see cursive letters saying. The Spark. This name meant a lot for Theo. In his last life, the name of his orphanage was Spark of Hope, and when he thought of a name for the first thing he built and designed alone in this world, all he could think of was his orphanage. For him, the name had this meaning. But for everyone else, who saw the restaurant, would think the spark referred to the spark of light that illuminated the restaurant with its beautiful characteristics, light sources. Let's take a selfie here. Aiya exclaimed while pulling Theo to take a picture. Theo came back from his thoughts and smiled for the camera. I finally have a picture with him. Aiya said inwardly as she saved the picture. Chapter 39 Days before the opening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 2 days later, Wednesday. 3 days before the opening of the restaurant. Theo, Aiya, and the 4 assistant cooks arrived early in the morning at the restaurant. All the appliances are ready, and we can finally cook. What did you guys think of the kitchen? Theo asked. It's amazing, boss. Max exclaimed. It is so spacious. We can cook with much more comfort. Kimiko said with a smile. Theo, this kitchen is one of the best I have ever seen, Aiya exclaimed with eyes shining with excitement. They looked at the kitchen that could easily house up to 15 people. It had numerous stoves, ovens, and all other cooking appliances. It was a top professional kitchen. I am glad you guys liked it. Theo laughed. Then they proceed to change room to put their cooking clothes on. Theo ordered clothes with the logo of the restaurant. The 4 assistant cooks had white pants and white jackets with an image of a spark on the sleeves and collars of the uniforms. They also had a gray apron to tie on their waist. Aiya's uniform was different. As the second chef of the restaurant, her uniform needed to be different from the normal cooks to show the hierarchy of the kitchen. She had light purple pants and a jacket. And on the jacket around the upper left part, it was written her name and her position in the kitchen. On the back of the jacket, it showed the name of the restaurant and the flag of the Sakura Abode country. Theo told Aiya that she could draw on the uniform and personalize as she liked. He noticed that she liked drawing on her clothes and allowed her to do the same with the uniform. His only request was to not draw on her name or the restaurant's name. Aiya was jumping with excitement when she heard that. She also loved that her uniform was purple. It went well with her purple hair. Theo's uniform was all black. He loved clothes that had a darker tone of color. And all over his uniform, it could be seen sparks. It was a beautiful combination that made the sparks look like stars. His uniform seemed like a clothed version of the hall of the restaurant. On the upper left side of his jacket, it was written, Chef Theodore, and on the back side of the jacket, the name of the restaurant was visible alongside the flag of the Sakura Abode country. When they left the changing room, they looked at each other while analyzing their uniform. When Aiya saw Theo in his uniform, she immediately became flustered. The contrast of his dark uniform with his silver-ash eyes and hair made him look like a movie star. He looked even more handsome than usual. The other ladies too became infatuated when they saw their boss. Even Lauren, who already had a boyfriend. How can he be so handsome? All of them thought the same thing. Theo looked at his employees and became happy. They looked awesome. Especially when he looked at Aiya. To him, she looked like a top model who was about to shoot pictures with a chef uniform. She looked stunning with her light purple uniform and purple hair and her golden eyes that made her look like a goddess. As they were coming to the kitchen, they heard a truck coming from the back of the building. That must be the supply of food I ordered. Let's go meet them. Theo said to them. They arrived at the back of the restaurant building and saw that it had an unloading area connected with the food storage room. Mr. Gray. I am from Prime Industries, and I have a supply of food to deliver here. Can you point to the place where we can unload the food? A short man in a blue uniform said. Sure, you guys can back up the truck here in the unloading area. My second chef will supervise, and if you guys need anything you can ask her. Theo replied. Aiya was surprised when she heard that but also happy. She wanted to be productive. Aiya, can you do that for me while I interview the people for the other job openings of the restaurant? Theo asked her. Sure, it will be my pleasure, she smiled. You four will help Aiya with anything that she needs, okay? Theo said to the four assistant cooks. Yes, chef, the four of them replied. Theo nodded and went back to the front of the restaurant. He would interview people for the job of waiter or waitress, manager, greeter, and dishwasher. For cleaners, Theo was going to contact a private company to contract them to clean the restaurant. He had to ask for Sam's help to get in contact with these people. But as he interviewed these people, he was satisfied again with Sam's efficiency. Theo contracted all the people he deemed competent, and now the restaurant had all the staff required to open for business. The manager was a freshly graduated student from the Bluecorn University of Elfire City of Business Management. Her name was June Collins, and she was 24 years old. She had short red hair that made her look like a tomboy. But that her look more pretty. Sam told him that June studied with her back when Sam went to college. Theo liked her personality. She was stern, but she knew how to smile and handle different situations. That was exactly what a high-end restaurant's manager should be capable of. Theo then proceeded to show the restaurant for them after he settled their employment contracts. And like everyone else, they also became enchanted by his restaurant. After he finished showing the restaurant for them, Theo called the kitchen staff that just finished organizing the food storage room to the salon. He wanted to say a few words to them. Hello everyone, I just wanted to say a few words before anything else. My name is Theodore Gray, and I am the owner and head chef of this restaurant. Theo said while looking at their faces. This restaurant was a dream of mine even before I knew I could cook. You guys know when you are kids and you see something amazing and you want to do it, even if you don't have any financial support or anything else. I was that kid. My dream was to cook good food for my loved ones and make them happy. Theo smiled. Even though I can't make them happy anymore, luckily I still have one person in this life who I want to make her happy with my food. And this restaurant is the place I build to share this happiness with others. And as workers of this restaurant, I want you guys to know that even if you are just salon workers or cleaners, we are all family, and I want you guys to feel like this place is as magical as it is magical to me. Theo showed them a sincere smile. After he finished talking, they applauded with fervor. They all felt a warmth in their hearts. To have a boss like that is a blessing. They all had similar thoughts. Now, how about you guys each introduce yourselves and your job occupation in the restaurant? Theo said. And like that they all had a great time after they were introduced to each other, as they all felt excitement for the opening of the restaurant. Discord of the novel. https://discord.gg/tjnajfing. Chapter 40 Menu of the restaurant. You are listening at novelfull.audio. They socialized for around 1 hour until Theo called the kitchen staff to the kitchen and he left the salon staff with June. She would train them on how to work in a high-end restaurant. As they arrived at the kitchen, Theo gave them a paper to each of them. This is the menu of the restaurant. And in these 3 days before the opening, we will perfect our cooking time and flavor of the dishes so that when we open, we get the high excellency I demand. Theo said sternly. Yes, chef, they all replied as they went through the menu. As you can see, we will have 3 menus that the client will choose which menu they want. The first menu we will have a salad as an appetizer and the details of the salad you see there. For the main course, we will have a traditional lasagna, a dish I brought to this world. And for dessert, we will have a cream of sour fruits with a crunch of sweet banana. For the second menu, I chose to be the theme of the ocean. So, all the ingredients of the courses will have sea origin. The appetizer will be seaweed flavored with my sauce and fried shrimp. For the main course, we will have fish soup, but this soup is different. I want to make this soup look like the sea, with fish, squid, scallops, and all other types of sea creatures. But this soup won't be too messy as it sounds. It will be like a tranquil sea that with each spoon the client will discover another sea creature. And for the dessert, we will have a souffle of sweet seaweed. For the third menu, I chose to be a vegetarian theme. For the appetizer, we will have white bean hummus and sun-dried tomatoes. And for the main course, we will have a ratatouille with goat cheese. The ratatouille is also my original recipe. And for dessert, we will have a blackberry and apple cinnamon crumble cake. Theo finalized his explanation. All the dishes he was serving in his restaurant came from his past life that he saw on cooking shows, and after tasting and seeing that this world didn't have anything like it, he chose to put them in his restaurant. Especially the 3 main courses. The lasagna, fish sea soup, and ratatouille. They were extremely delicious and Theo was sure these dishes would be famous worldwide. The explanation and recipes of the dishes are here. You guys can look and ask any questions you have. Theo said while passing another stack of papers. They studied the recipes for around 30 minutes when Kimiko raised her hand. Chef, the recipe of this lasagna says that it uses fresh pasta. How are we going to implement that on the fast-paced service? Kimiko asked. Good question, Kimiko-san. I have a technique that can make the pasta fresh for a few hours, so before we open the restaurant, we will prepare all the ingredients that take more time to make. For example, the fresh pasta of the lasagna, my personalized sauces, the cream and other ingredients. The other asked some other questions and after some time Theo took them to cook. It was better to cook all the dishes first so that they could see how he cooked these dishes and meanwhile he could solve any doubts they had. After Theo cooked all the menus by himself while explaining all the steps of the processes, they felt even more admiration for Theo. They tasted and they had to admit, it was so delicious that they wanted to eat much more of these dishes. After they tasted, they all wanted to start cooking. And like that, they started their training on how to cook perfectly in the least time possible. On a different part of the globe, at that moment, 2 men were drinking tea inside a 15-story building that hovered at the center of a metropolis. This city had different characteristics than the Sakura abode country's cities. This city's name was Alabaster, and it was one of the biggest cities in the world. It was localized in the Bald Eagle country, which together with the Sakura abode country made the top 2 potencies of the world. Although the Sakura abode country was more powerful than the Bald Eagle country. As the Bald Eagle country was formed from immigrants of a side clan of the Pendragon clan that didn't agree with the peace treaty with the Yamato clan. Although the side family of the Pendragon clan prospered in the new land, they still couldn't surpass the Sakura abode country. Although they swore that they surpassed, but the rest of the world knew that the Sakura abode country was like a low-key person that if insulted would become the most powerful foe of the other. These two men were in Alabaster City to discuss a business deal with an industry of the Bald Eagle country. "Father, we should be signing the contract by tomorrow. We can return to Sakura City after that," one of them said. He was a middle-aged man with purple hair that exuded confidence. "That's good. After all, I only accompanied you because I wanted to meet my friend," the old man said. He was an old man, but his posture and look made him look much younger. These two were the Yamada Izum and his father Yamada Takeo. While the two were drinking tea, both received notification of the incoming message. These phones were their personal cell phone and very few people knew them. So, they immediately took it out to see the message. As they checked the message, they both received the same message from the same number. It said, "You are invited to the grand opening of The Spark restaurant at Elffire City. The chef Theodore hopes to have the pleasure of your presence on September 19th, Father, did you also receive the invitation from Theo?" Izum asked. "Yes, it seems that young Theo is already opening his restaurant. We must go. I want to see this restaurant that Theo put so much effort into," Takeo said as he drank another mouthful of tea. "Hazel is arriving from her trip the day after tomorrow. I will ask her if she wants to go. Elffire City is where the Lionheart family resides after all," Izum said. "Yes, you have to treat little Hazel more properly. I don't want my daughter-in-law to think Yamada men don't treat women well. Do you understand?" Takeo said sternly. "Yes, Father," Izum said exasperately. It wasn't his fault that his wife had an adventurous side and he had to stay back to take care of the family as the current head of the family. The two of them then started talking about miscellaneous things as they drank their tea.